All right, so we looked at Flexport.
Okay, so to start off, the freight forwarding business is a circulatory system for global trade. For those that don't know, freight forwarders are basically the people that organize shipments for individuals or corporations to get goods from the manufacturers or producers to the market or final point distribution, aka the customer. Freight forwarders have traditionally been a relatively fragmented and disorganized industry where the majority of companies use a plethora of complicated spreadsheets and antiquated mediums to communicate. These can include like emails, fax machines, phone calling, etc. To give some examples. But anyways, these highly inefficient operating models cost companies around the world hundreds of billions of dollars worth of time and lost productivity every year. So as a result, freight forwarders have developed this sort of bad reputation and are known to be like unpredictable, unreliable, and provide low quality customer service. So a recent report published in 2018 showed that in the UK alone, supply chain inefficiencies wasted nearly 100 million hours in procurement, supplier management, and freight administration functions, which is estimated to cost around $2 billion. So moving on to the solution slide. Flexport's strategic operating model connects all of their users, which includes importers, exporters, trucking companies, ocean carriers, airlines, customs agencies, port terminals, and others through like a single secure cloud-based platform. Their logistics infrastructure also allows access to like all modes of cargo shipping with reliable space and rates, as well as a growing network of cross-docking warehouses near major global cities for storage. So Flexport also delivers 24/7, 365 human support in which clients can interact with a core team of operations professionals known as squads and receive nearly instant answers and assistance to any questions or difficulties their clients may have. So ultimately, Flexport produces a far better freight forwarding experience for those involved in global trade networks by delivering a service that combines their tech, infrastructure, and expertise to offer real-time visibility and control for their clients. By giving clients better visibility and control over their inventory in motion than ever before, Flexport's services allow their clients to better match supply and demand, reducing working capital, enabling greater business agility, and ultimately helping to drive growth. Their innovative approach is more transparent, more agile, more efficient, and more profitable for supply chains around the globe. Okay, so before moving on, it's worth briefly mentioning some recent data that has been published which highlights Flexport's value to their clients. So 88% of clients say that Flexport's platform provides easy access to reporting and analytics, which helps them make more data-informed supply chain decisions. 91% of clients agree that Flexport's shared workspace makes it easier for their team to stay aligned and on the same page. And it has also been found that Flexport's clients spend 30% less time on finding the shipment insights they're looking for. So ultimately, we believe it's fair to estimate that Flexport's capable and has the potential to add back billions of dollars to the companies around the world. So the market size and overall opportunity. So a recent report by IMARC Group shows the global logistics market size reached a value of $4.96 trillion in 2019. So it's projected to reach a value of $6.54 trillion by 2025, which ultimately registers a compounded annual growth rate of 4.7% over the next 5 years. The global market is primarily driven by considerable growth in the e-commerce industry, and this can be attributed to a significant increase in the sales of goods through online retail channels, which is further facilitated by the convenience offered by these platforms at a better price point. So since logistics play a crucial role in the smooth functioning of online deliveries, this has provided a thrust towards this market growth. Asia Pacific is both the largest and fastest growing market in the industry. So if Flexport was to target anything specifically, it would be to penetrate that channel further. Beyond these statistics that lay out the current trends of the market and overall opportunity for Flexport, it's also worth mentioning that due to their international scope, Flexport needs to comply with a number of complex international shipping and trade regulations. These can change from nation to nation, and in order to continue their expansion and uphold their PR to like a credible level, it's pivotal for Flexport to comply and be on top of this. One of the interesting regulatory developments that has direct implications to Flexport's operations, which I found through doing some research, was especially pertinent to Flexport's clients and carrier partners. And it's in response to the huge environmental waste that's been linked to the shipping industry. So to give you guys a quick rundown, the shipping industry is one of the greatest contributors to pollution and carbon emissions on the planet. Maritime shipping consumes 4.4 million barrels of oil per day. It accounts for 10% of oil consumption attributed to the entire transportation sector. And a recent study in 2016 estimated that between the years 2020 and 2025, more than 570,000 premature deaths worldwide will be linked to air pollution from ships. So in response to this stunning and rather horrifying data, the International Maritime Organization rolled out a landmark set of regulations that is estimated to cost carriers at least $15 billion per year, which for them is a roughly 10 to 20% increase in their overall costs. So carriers are given the choice to either order liquefied natural gas ships, install scrubbers, or buy cleaner fuel like MGO in response to this order. These regulations were put into effect on January 1st, 2020, and ultimately, if effective, they will reduce the occurrence of lightning storms along trade routes, especially in the Indian Ocean and South China Sea, reduce the occurrence of acid rain, which harms agriculture and crops, and reduce respiratory problems and cardiovascular diseases, which is prominent in port cities and coastal areas. So although many of us are finance-focused students and or professors, we're more importantly all global citizens, and I thought that these regulations were relevant enough to our company to be an important addition for our presentation. All right, that's all I got.
Okay, so who picks up the next part of your presentation?
Is Braden, are you in?
Braden's in.
All right, Braden.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So for the business model, Flexport has been aiming to try and make the shipment of goods easier. So what they did is they had to create a software that made this transition faster. So they took the fastest routes that they could find over air, seas, and shipping, and they were able to implement that all into one software that can be broken down by the most simple of tasks through the group, and then Flexport has made the shipping a lot easier. And this is because they have took all of the resources they've needed and they put them into one business model. They're now able to transition people through the shipping process a lot easier and a lot faster. The SWOT analysis. So what this is this kind of shows their strength, their weakness, their opportunity, and their threats. So Flexport allows for the best routing, pricing, and delivery timeliness for its customers. Flexport is the 11th largest freight forwarder by ocean volume on the eastboard. So this means that they have found the fastest and the best routes to help get the products to the customers the quickest. Right now, their weakness is that there's a lot of big industries and companies that are already in this market. So competing with those is definitely an issue, but because of their super simple database, it makes it a lot easier for people to go into there and not have to deal with all the paperwork that you would have to deal with through other ways of transition. Opportunity. This company has the best technological advances and is able to convince customers that their experience are creating value. Flexport has an impressive suite of logistical services that allow their customers to find many solutions in one place. And then their threats, the market competition in the industry is experienced and customers do not like making changes in their supply chain. So because of this, Flexport has a lot of people that don't want to join into it because there's a lot of people that already like FedEx and other markets that are already companies that are already out there. So they are looking for less established companies. And marketing, if we could watch the second video quickly. I'm pretty sure this is the minute one, right? Oh no, this is the wrong video, my bad. I want to play the other one. So this is one example of how Flexport has been marketing to people all over the world, trying to get them to switch to their platform.
Boss, dude, the sound's not working. Might be because of your headphones.
I think it's because the boss is on mute.
All right. Let me know if you can hear this.
We do not.
Okay.
Go ahead and bypass this, Braden, and just go ahead and discuss for us what the video would have told us.
Okay, so basically in the video it talks about how Flexport is this new innovation of the trading service where they take the fastest shipping routes, the fastest land routes, and the fastest air routes, and they basically put them all in one database together. That's super simple, so companies can go in, use this database instead of having to send a bunch of different emails and a bunch of different paperwork. It all gets put into the one database, and the Flexport, the people that work for Flexport basically take in your data and manage it and send it back to you and make it a lot simpler and a lot quicker to get from A to B, and it won't take as long. And in the video it explains how before Flexport, they would send the package and try and fly the paperwork that you had to sign before the package got there. And Flexport, the owner of Flexport was like, why would we need to fly a paper before the shipment gets there? Why can't we just use this, like the interweb, and have people do it much faster? So that was his kind of ideology behind creating Flexport, so it'd be a more simple and more quick way of getting your packages where they need to be without having to do as much work.
All right, so moving on to the management of the company. So their chief executive officer and founder is Ryan Peterson. So Ryan he has prior experience leading global shipping companies. He's also worked for a couple of operations and logistic companies, and kind of ran his way up those
Bossy,
hands.
boss,
Yep.
we're having difficulty hearing you.
Okay. Let me see if I can fix that 1 second.
That's much better.
Okay. All right, let me start over. So the chief executive officer and founder is Ryan Peterson. He has a prior experience in leading global shipping companies and logistic companies. The chief operating officer is Stan Matters, and they have experience with customer logistics and relationships and supply chains. And then their president for Asia, Hui Lin, has been with the company probably longest next to the chief executive officer. And so she oversees all of Flexport's activity in Asia, which is kind of a huge job to have, especially since that's one of the major trade partners that Flexport is making their brokerages with and putting insurances on with the stuff coming from Asia. And then their chief technology officer is James Chen, and he is previously a director of technology at Amazon, and he's now providing Flexport with this technology strategy. And then finally, their head of finance, global head of finance is Felipe Laico. And he oversees all financial strategy and financial functions for the company. And he spent about two decades leading financial operations for major companies like General Electric. I think it was Illumina was the other one. And then, okay, moving on to their funding. So it's kind of very interesting looking into the funding of Flexport. So they were founded in 2013, and they raised a total of $1.4 billion. And the latest funding was $1.1 billion in February 2019. So do the math right. They got their largest injection of funding pretty recently, and it's a very large part of their funding came from that February series. So their estimated valuation is supposed to be around $3 billion. And some of the biggest investors for Flexport have the SoftBank Vision Fund, which gave them the majority of that $1.1 billion in February, as well as Wells Fargo, Next Play Capital, Open Government, Initiative Capital, and then there's 72 other investors. So looking at their funding rounds, so their first funding round was in August 2015. And this was their Series A, where they issued 42 million shares at a share price of $68 per share. And they were able to raise 28.8 million for that round. And the post-money valuation was 102.5 million. And then Series B in September 2016, they did additional 33.6 million shares at 1.8 price per share. And they raised million, and the post-money valuation jumped up to 300 million. And then so for the Series C in September, another 44 million shares at 3.5 dollars per share, which is the last stated share price. We couldn't find an updated share price after the February 2019. They raised 150.9 million and got huge jump in their post-money valuation at almost $1 billion, at 950 million. And then February 2019 was their biggest year. They issued 168, almost 169 million shares, and the amount raised was 1.1 billion, floated mostly by that SoftBank Vision Fund, and their post-money valuation, from 1 billion to 3 billion within a couple of years, which is kind of impressive. And then kind of just looking at the valuation over time. So they started with their valuation after Series A at 102.5 million, and then in that kind of short period of time was able to raise it to 3.2 billion, which I thought was really interesting. And I guess investors have seen the value of the company since then. And then their capital raise is a very similar story. We have 28.8 million in their first round funding, and then it jumps up to 1.1 billion in their last Series D within like a 4 to 5 year time period. That's really impressive to see. And then, so yeah, the total amount raised was 1.3 billion. The valuation is now at 3.2 billion. And the revenue, we couldn't find much about their financials for Flexport, but what we could find was the revenue for 2018 was about 471 million, and the estimated revenue for about 2019 dropped to about, I think it was 195 million. And then the Series D funding was their last round of funding, and we haven't seen anything yet about wanting to do any more funding. I think they're more positioning themselves towards an exit strategy at this point. And then their exit strategy, so they haven't talked much about their exit strategy, but this is kind of what we came up with, kind of what we've been talking about. So they have kind of three options: partnership with a transportation and logistics company. So kind of partnering with those bigger companies like FedEx or XPO Logistics, or just being straight out bought out by those bigger companies like FedEx or XPO, and just using their technology into those bigger companies. And then finally, their third option would probably be an IPO or direct listing, which we talked about. And a direct listing would probably be good for this company because it would be a quick way for them to raise capital without giving a lot of control up. And being a technology company, it kind of fits in that framework of what we've seen direct listings kind of work in the past. And I think that's all we have. If any questions you guys have, we're free to take them.
I've got a question. So maybe I heard wrong, but Abasi, it sounded like you said, so their revenue in 2018 was over 400 million, and you said the projected one for 2019 was almost half of that at 200 million.
Yeah, so their financial information was really hard to find. So that's a really like out there estimate. And I don't know how solid that estimate for that 2019 revenue figure is. But yeah, it was interesting to see that their revenue was kind of cut in half in 2019 for what people were projecting.
And then I had one other question. So does Flexport, are they looking to like service like every type of person in the shipping industry, or are they more focused on maybe like some of the smaller companies that, if you look at Walmart, they've probably got such a well-defined shipping route and system that maybe they don't need it as much, or are they looking to get Walmart, or are they looking to get companies that aren't as expertise in the shipping industry to make it easier for the smaller ones?
Yep. So one of their main customers is Ring. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's the like a home security system where they put the camera at the door or whatever, and you connect it to your smartphone or your laptop, and you can see who's at your front door. Like basically, it's a home security system. That's kind of one of their main customers right now, and they're not a huge company right now, but that's kind of like the niche kind of customer that they're going for, that kind of starting up but establishing and becoming more recognized companies. So they're not going for your Fortune 500 or your very well-established companies. They're going for your kind of startup, lower capitalization companies. So yeah.
And sorry, do you mind if I jump in? I had a
How
question
does,
about. Sorry.
Go ahead, Ben.
Sorry
go ahead.
about that, Dylan. I had a question about the penetration statistics. So, like, what kind of penetration were they getting? I might have missed that. Did you talk about that?
Yep.
All right. Okay.
So what we saw was it was very slow compared to their major competitors for penetration. Just like we were talking about, they have to get kind of a niche kind of customer before they're able to get bigger customers. So their penetration has been kind of slow into the logistics marketplace, but it's because the logistics market share is so big at about 5 trillion, there is enough for them in that space to kind of get the customers that they were looking for. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
How does, I have a question if you don't mind. So how does Flexport monetize the software? So is it like a subscription-based, like selling it to the company, or is it like how much, or based off how much they're shipping, or how does the company pay for the software?
Yeah, so mostly what they do is it's kind of deal by deal, depending on the services that they're providing with their platform and the amount they're shipping for each client. But it's fee-based mostly, and depending on how much a client utilizes their services, those fees change proportionately. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I have another question.
Sure.
I don't know if any of you have any insights of this, but how is Flexport being affected by COVID-19?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And the entire trade, they're not only just being affected by COVID-19, but they're also affected by the trade tariffs. So with both of those sort of forces being at play, the entire like global trade business in total is being affected, and Flexport's kind of involved in all of those services to some extent, or at least trying to be. So it's definitely being impacted. I don't know if I can just like give you a quantitative figure of how much their operation, their value has diminished or tarnished as a result of COVID-19, just because there wasn't much quantitative data to begin with. But I can tell you that I was listening to a podcast by the CEO, and he was talking about how this has been very difficult, but they're working with their clients to rebound as effectively as possible.
Thank you.
Jens has his hand raised, guys.
Yes, I did. I wanted to ask a follow-up question that was raised earlier. Do they charge their customers for the software as a service or access to the platform?
Yeah, I believe so. They charging a fee for that access to their software, but they also have kind of boutique stuff that they do, also like insurance for their freights, and they also do brokerage, I believe, for like finding the best prices for shipping lanes and stuff. So they do have flat fees, but they also have additional ways that they're, I guess, supplementing their cash flow through those one-time fees and stuff like insurance and brokerage fees.
Okay, yeah, like different products.
Yeah.
But do you know how much they charge for access to the platform, to the actual tool?
I tried to dig and find pricing, but I could not find anything for that.
It's probably a bit like you guys stated earlier, that it's a deal-by-deal thing. Interesting, thanks.
Bossy, could you go back to the valuation slide, please, where you showed the rounds and the numbers?
Yep.
You represented or talked about, and let's go to the next one, I think. There you go. You talk about this series of post-money valuations. So if I have an interesting little business idea, no matter what it is, and I can figure out a way to get you guys to invest $1 million in my idea, then I have a post-money valuation of $1 million just because of the money that came in, and not at all because of any revenue or profit or anything I've got, right? So are these post-money valuations or are these pre-money valuations? Do we know?
So I would say that these would probably be post-money valuations, just because of they, like you said, they're getting the new value after the investors put their money in. But again, it's not really based on revenue, so I don't know.
So do you know, in this Series D, do we know how much they actually raised?
Yeah, it was that 1.1 billion.
In the Series D?
Yep.
Okay, got it. So that would suggest that they have a 2.1 billion value, pre-money. Okay, good enough. Thank you. Any other questions, guys? Well, thanks for those of you that asked them. Good job, you guys. Nicely done.